behind, because the biggest issue for me is I felt like for the past 2 days I've been casting a lot of Shaman where once you hit turn 5 or so, it's, well, I hope I draw a good card off the top of the deck. It feels worse than Hunter, and that's saying something. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this one goes, especially with that Enthusiastic Banker in there, to see how much of an impact that card makes. Also, the Primal Dungeoneer as well from No Hands means that there is some additional card draw overall. So let's see if No Hands is the person to prove me wrong, or at least up my opinion of Quest Shaman.
Yeah, and it might be Monsanto that actually helps you solidify your opinion, because he's going to have a lot of time here to do the thing that Rogue does. It needs a bit more time than Warlock, because it also doesn't have the removal, so that's kind of why it's just a bad version of D6 Warlock. But the Shaman struggles to put the pressure on, but those 2 overdrafts that No Hands has in here can act as closing cards in some situations.
Yeah, I think I got overdrafted. Is that correct? I don't know.
That'll do me.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I said glowed at one point, so that's fine. I got hit for 9 the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, that can deal some damage. Like, never mind.
Absolutely.
Pretty crazy overall, but already No Hands does have not the sort of aggro opening, but enough of an opening to keep the resources flowing, right, with that Primal Dungeoneer and the Banker as well. So I think this matchup will be interesting, because No Hands, as you said, like, has the Quest Shaman shenanigans, especially with Charge Call later on, but the worry is later on already too late if Monsanto can accelerate his game plan.
Yeah, and there's a lot of planning required here for No Hands as to when he gets to unlock the locked crystals as well. Currently doesn't matter, but as half the deck is overload, it will matter very soon. But coining out the 3/2, obviously with a plan to possibly Lightning Bloom out another 3 attack minion, just putting on maximum pressure. And this is not what he needed to see. The Lone Shark, basically the one card in the deck that Monsanto can challenge the board with.
Yeah, and also a bit of an infuriating card to deal with, because you don't necessarily want to kill it, because then the coins are back in the hand there for Monsanto. But if you don't kill it, it normally just gets pointed at face, which then means it's easier for the rogue to kill you with like less Garrotes, for example, in the late game. So it's one of those tricky things where you kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in this scenario. But No Hands just saying, you know what, I want to keep board, I want to pressure as much as possible, and also maybe stick this Banker for longer than the one turn it usually sticks around for. So I do like this approach here from No Hands.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, like, you see these games where there's no cards gamer if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And very, very low, but did manipulate the turn, manipulate the quest so that he ends up unlocking after a Lightning Bloom, which is kind of the whole point of what this deck does on the micro level at the start of the game.
Yeah, double Shroud now in hand for Monsanto, so he has a ton of card draw. Not really too interested in the secondary effect of Shroud, which is if you play them they gain stealth. So it's mainly is just for that forced card draw here to get the minions out of the deck and then start that cycle off. So he's doing okay, but it is getting awfully close to the point where Monsanto kind of needs to conjure up a way to deal with something on this board, and that Brain Freeze might go a little bit of a way to help in that.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to destroy something this turn. The only time you really use the effect from the Shroud is if you get an Octobot and you want to proc it, but not now. So sometimes you use the stealth. But usually, like you say, please give me my Auctioneer are the words that you chant when you play it.
And I'm pretty interested to see how Monsanto deals with this board, because there's 2 school of thoughts, or at least one weird school of thought I've tried when I've come up against the Banker is, what if you just never kill it? And then either make No Hands have to like aim a lightning bolt at it, or then No Hands just doesn't get the additional cards, right? If it doesn't die, he doesn't gain the cards in hand. And at this moment in time, Monsanto could just go Brain Freeze and then, what's the word I'm looking for? The Extortion to kill the other 2 minions, if he wants to use a coin, for example, and then just let the 2/3, deal 2 damage every turn.
Yeah, who cares?
Not give No Hands those additional cards. Now they're stacking up past 1.
That's really interesting, actually. If it was a 3-3, you'd kind of have to get rid of it, but as a 2-3, yeah, it's not really applying the pressure particularly against this deck that doesn't play cards. Monsanto, of course, has bigger troubles now, though, because the guaranteed almost auctioneer that he was likely to get never guaranteed or auctioned. It's not there. And so he's going to have to find creative ways to stay alive if No Hands starts to apply the pressure, and Charged Call on 5 often does that. Runthak?
Yes.
Just the hardest thing to get rid of, right? It's a 3-6. You don't really care what you get from the Talion, so...
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, like, Talon's card draw will get his other Canal Slugger, I believe, is the highest cost in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And although Runthak, yes, it has double the health, the Talon has Divine Shield, right? So it would require, like, a weapon hit and to deal 3. So I would have thought about Talon there, but I think they are quite close. And Runthak, you can't really go that wrong with a 3-6 in this scenario, right?
Bit grim for Monsanto here. He's having to almost certainly Octobot here much earlier than you'd like. You would much rather do this during the combo because of the way that spell damage works, for instance. But at least he does get to reduce an auctioneer if he does it now.
Do you want him to use Extortion on this, I imagine, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is looking okay, though, because he has a turn with Cloak, and he has an auctioneer turn after that with the, 3 coins, the second Octobot, and so on. So these are the turns where it looks like Rogue's about to die, and then they kill you instead. So just got to keep in mind there. And with No Hands, he is on 30 health, so this Canal Slog isn't really going to get tons of value if played this turn. No Hands will really want to keep hold of that, I think, for the turn that Monsanto can potentially like pop off, but not quite get the kill.
Yeah, I think we'll see the Cloak now, and then the turn after, we'll see Monsanto turn his hat backwards and just get on with business and try and win the game. It will look exactly the same backwards, but it doesn't matter.
More about the motion, isn't it, than the result?
Yeah, just the look at me, I'm about to win motion.
Okay, he's going to play the Slugger there. Just get it down. It's as aggressive, as wide, as challenging as No Hands can make a board. So this is basically just saying, okay, this is just everything I've got. Monsanto, you have to either kill me or have exactly Cloak. And Monsanto is only just about past halfway through his deck, right? So it's not a completely unreasonable thing to think that the Cloak wouldn't be there.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. Cloak, of course, these days, when back when we were lads, Raven, we played with just the 1 Cloak, but now they do play with 2. Which is something that both you and I were saying, well, why don't we just have 2 of this really good card in our deck right from the start? But
it's like, let's just play 1 Ice Blocking Freeze Mage or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like the card's fantastic, and there are so little ways that decks can actually deal damage through Cloak, or deal relevant damage through Cloak, that it really is just an Ice Block on demand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I see the backstab, and if this is Lone Shark, then yes, your prediction is correct. Cloak now, and then at the biggest turn possible with Auctioneer. The Ethereal Log Merchant's already there, the reduction's already happened, so there's the 0 mana Garrote first, and potentially 2 more coins as well.
So much damage here for No Hands, but none of it can actually do anything.
And again, like, is it crazy to leave the Shark up so it can't, so that it trades into the 3/3 and it won't actually die?
Well, he'll hex it, I think. Maybe he'll mana, but he can hex it.
Yeah, he can with the coin. Even with that trade, might have looked strange, but he wants the cards, right? So trade coin hex is still completely fine.
Yeah, he just gets the coin, the coins, the cards. I am losing it slowly. Because he wins next turn if he's not dead. Pretty often here, I think.
Yeah, outside of second Cloak, right?
He's just making sure there's no crazy things that he's missing. He's actually going to kill it. What that means he's going to do instead.
Yeah, really.
Oh, I think he just had a moment. He'd planned to hex it, and then
Didn't.
when he saw the coins go to hand, he was just like, we all do it. It's like, why did I just do this? Just complete.
Yeah, he knows. He hovered the hex. Yeah. He knows that's just giving Monsanto 2 coins to play with. That's 2 additional card draws and more mana. Monsanto, was that, cloak off the top, right? So he's just cloaked again. And what this might seem very silly because of the power of Monsanto's hand, but he draws an extra card, which means he gets close to the bottom of his deck, which is exactly what he wants with this Garrote turn.
Nothing coming here from the Fireheart, so no miracle win condition by the look of it. And if you look at Monsanto, he's got 13 cards in deck. He's got 5 coins with the Auctioneer.
Yeah.
That's 5 of those 13 drawn, assuming they're all like blank cards and the Ace of Spades and things like that. It's just like, they aren't those. They are actually cards that do things, so he's going to be fine.
Yep. Prep, double step, backstab, the brain freeze, sinister strikes, all these spells will draw cards and effectively deal more damage, right? With the shadow steps for the ethereal orc merchant and so on. And now's go time. It's the last chance Monsanto has. He's used double cloak, and this is he wins the game or he loses it this turn. There is no in between.
And I'm going to take he wins the game, which means that you have to take the side of he loses the game.
Slightly unfair, but okay.
You can pick first next time.
Yeah, I am.
When the game is rerun.
Because Monsanto is so far deep in the deck, has so many coins, has some great draws off the top as well as he's drawing with his Gadget Zan, and he has submitted this deck, and I know Monsanto is a good Hearthstone player, that I would put this at 99.9% win here for Monsanto, unless he like misclicks or something, you know what I mean? As you can see, he's still on 8 out of 8 mana and down to pretty much 0 cards in his deck. Those Garrotes are going to start cooking very, very quickly.
Yeah, this is definitely lethal. And you make a good point there about and because he submitted the deck. Because he did tweet out earlier in the week that he's not playing D6 Warlock because he can't do it. He's not good enough at it. Now, Monsanto not being good enough at a deck compared to me or you not being good enough at a deck are 2 different things. I'm sure that he'd be pretty decent, but he didn't feel he was up to scratch to play a Grandmasters event with that deck, so he did not submit it. He did submit this. He's gone for a walk while we're watching him win the game. Magic Monsanto, though, does take it down and take a 1-0 lead.
And not a surprise, like I said, in that position, with the cards he had left that we showed you, it would have required Monsanto to completely mess up, which is uncharacteristic, right? And that's why he just showed off there saying, okay, boom, 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 lock in the combo that is 100% lethal. I'll just go and grab a drink or go for a stretch or something, because it was that given. And again, I think it's fair to wind back and say, yes, NoHands knows he messed up. He knows he should have hexed the shark. That may well not have won him the game. Monsanto may well have still killed him that turn, but still a mistake that you see there. So he'll be kicking himself a little bit. Don't think it would have necessarily made a big impact, because just looking at the amount of mana left for Monsanto when he finished his turn, I think he would have been able to draw through the deck and get the job done anyway. But still, a little bit frustrating, no doubt, and that means NoHands has to switch over. And to the shock of no one, Lorinda, he's gone for the Face Hunter to go up against this Garrote Rogue.
So, Raven, Hunter person, 1 piercing shot, 1 wriggling horror. Is there method in that madness, or is it just couldn't decide in time, so picked one of each?
Yeah, Face Hunter's weird at the moment. There's about 5+ different cards that people are kind of messing with. Some players aren't bringing Rinlin's Rifle, for example, which is I'm not a fan of. I like the Rinlin's Rifle in the list, and you can see it there in NoHands. But the 1 piercing shot is probably one of the more reasonable cuts, because aim shot is almost as good, if not better, than piercing shot. And obviously, we didn't have access to that last expansion. So I think that is one of the more cuttable cards. So it doesn't overly upset me to see that, because you are naturally running more guaranteed burn anyway. Whereas sometimes a piercing shot goes into a 5 health minion and deals 1, right? Whereas aim shot, if you so choose, can always pump out like the 7 damage available with the combined with their buffed hero powers. So yeah, not terrible at all from NoHands. I think the piercing shot quite cuttable in the list right now.
Very difficult for the rogue to cope with any of that, but the The discussion will come in handy, assuming that No Hands does win this game for the next game as well, because at the moment, No Hands' job is just to curve out with whatever he can find and attack the rogue with it. Monsanto's job, I don't know, find a shark, put it on the board, and hope it takes up 2 turns extra to kill it somehow.
Yes, very tough matchup. Rogue has, I say historically, obviously you can find differences here, but generally does not fare well versus a sort of high aggro hunter style decks. And this is maybe even worse than a lot of rogues we've seen in the past, because as we saw, there's minimal interaction, there's minimal amount of playable minions. So yeah, very, very tough one overall. It can be done, but as long as No Hands just has a reasonable curve, doesn't start with, say, like double Rhino in his opening hand, for example, then yeah, this is looking okay.
I wonder if he's got to coin Dagger here, which is like the worst thing you could possibly imagine with this deck. I don't think he can bring himself to.
Yeah, this is fun.
He has. Oh my. It was just going to get out of control, I guess. Oh. I've not seen this deck ever go coin Dagger on 1. Ever. This new Rogue deck, because now you're down a coin.
Play against Hunter.
Yeah, that's fair. But even then, you're hoping to have a minion like an Octobot. If you want to put that down, at least it does something, or get a shark down, something. But yeah, ouch.
Yeah, I do agree. I think this is one of those matchups for the Rogue where you really want to almost like shark into shark, just to put minions down and hope that the Hunter has, like I said, one of those half-dead draws where you've just got double Rhino, or a 4 and 5 drop in your opening hand, so your first couple of turns are kind of maybe 1/1 drop and a hero power. Monsanto.
Even this hand at the moment for No Hands isn't like the best Hunter hand ever for killing people quickly. I know it's gone 1-2-3 kind of, but it's gone 1-1-3. They're not high impact minions when you're trying to score an open goal. They're great minions in the actual game of Hunter versus Hunter, say.
I will say, though, the quick shot is the saving grace, though. Okay, maybe less so now because of the Rhino. But having that quick shot there means that it's not only 3 damage, but it's the additional card draw later on when you are digging for card draw to end the game quickly.
Yep.
I imagine now, though, this is just a no-brainer, right? You've just seen Brain Freeze, you've seen Orc Merchant, you've seen Coin Dagger. Like, realistically, is there any chance that Monsanto has an answer to this Kolkar? I want to say no.
Backstab would... He would have used it. Yeah. What do you do if you're Monsanto? I wonder if you have to play a Garrote here, not because it's good timing, because it's terrible timing, but just to be mana efficient and hope that the bleeds congregate at the bottom of your deck.
I don't mind the Dagger here because I think in a weird world, it might even just have to be hope you draw Shark next turn, play it, maybe get 1 swing of something in, push damage with the Dagger, and then hope like Sinister Strike, Garrote, and then they draw every single bleed out of the deck, right? Like that kind of silliness to just go absolute max damage. Maybe a Secret Passage can help as well, just get to that just raw damage and try to hope you just get that kind of God draw where it's just every single damage piece in your deck and you can raise.
It's actually worked out as well as he could have hoped as well, because he is going to get to take down this wriggling horror with a Dagger, so sure. And that 2 mana was well spent. Oh, he can get a minion that minions itself around. What could he get? So, I think that he's low enough now on cheap spells and coins and stuff that I think he might have to save the prep. That's my gut instinct. Because he might have to go off very narrowly, like Auctioneer, prep something and pray.
Yeah, I just think if he does anything else this turn, it's a pass, take 8. Which I'm not sure is an acceptable Hearthstone turn. Because if he prep draws and hits a shark, he can play it, right?
Yeah, okay.
As you can probably tell, we are kind of scrambling as just very far-fetched ideas to be able to give Monsanto as good a chance to win the game as possible, even if that chance is, 5%.
It's clearly tight because he's not comfortable with this decision either. I imagine that was the two things we were waffling on about were probably the two things in his mind. But now he has hit the Auctioneer. Next turn he can, for instance, next turn or maybe the turn after, if he feels great, he can Cloak, and then at least he has a start for Auctioneer, prep something. That's 2 card draws. But he was probably hoping to hit Auctioneer and Shark all at once there.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's even right. It looks okay.
I imagine it'll be Cloak this turn. Because if he doesn't Cloak this turn, one, he could just be dead to certain hands. But also, if you leave it too late to Cloak, Hunter is a deck that can actually kill you through it on certain health totals, right? With a piercing shot, with an aim shot, even on a minion, and then the hero power for 4. For example, like you can deal that damage even through the stealth. So I think it's important versus Hunter to just Cloak a opportunity where, okay, I'll save 6. Like, that's fine.
I don't disagree with any of the things you just said, but I'm wondering if he might have to take the risk to get the extra mana. It's like buying you a coin if you can go 1 extra turn. Not now, he can't. Now...
Well, that's it, right? The problem is if No Hands played any card this turn, and sometimes even if he didn't, he would, on average, be dead.
Well, you can do some things.
So, does he actually Octo, proc it, and then Cloak?
I mean, that's what's jumping out at me, and that's a horrible play normally. But he's got to win the turn after this one, which is, like, super hard. I'm not going to pretend that he's in with a great chance here. Right. And if it's going to be super hard, you've got to give yourself a chance to at least get rolling with the Auctioneer. And a 5-mana Auctioneer, a 1-mana Garrote, a prep into whatever you draw, a 0-mana Sinister Strike. That's as appealing as it's going to get, is how my gut instinct goes.
Soon.
The only other option is to like Garrote and Cloak, just so it's one less card you have to play.
Sure, that's what he's going to do. This means that Rhino can't hit him as well, which isn't really an issue. I guess True Aim Rhino was a problem the other way.
Yeah.
True Aim Rhino would have been lethal, I think.
Oh, Piercing Shot just sets up guaranteed lethal next turn. So Monsanto has exactly this one turn to be able to win the game. It was very unlikely from turn 1, just to the nature of how polarized the matchup is. But yeah, Monsanto is just going to concede because he didn't do the reduction. He had 0 chance of actually cycling through enough of the deck to do anything. But as you quite rightly mentioned, if he did do the reduction, then damage gets pushed from Rhinos, from True Aim, so on, Piercing Shot anyway, and he's still in that same kind of issue. So it's going to be evened up. And this is something I've noticed so far. I don't know if you'll agree, but in this last hero standing in this meta, you are getting those sort of extremely polarized matchups that are still winnable, but that one right there was probably one of the most unwinnable matchups I've seen for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yesterday's Europe went all 20 games, I believe. You'll know better than me on that, but I'm pretty sure I typed a lot of 3-2s into yesterday's Europe. The maximum
Day was yesterday now.
Yeah, Friday.
It did, yes. It went 3-2 every game, yeah.
So the maximum number, but then APAC went 13, which is basically all 3-0s. So, but that's because you win the middle game. If you win that game just now, if somehow the Rogue wins that, it all collapses like a house of cards that collapsed and doesn't work anymore. Anyway, it's going to be the Hunter, which means that it's likely Monsanto will queue his Shaman, as we've talked about the benefits of Shaman taking down these aggressive decks. But Hunter can sometimes just get it done anyway, I've noticed.
Yeah, it really can. It's definitely not a simple, well, you know, Shaman has way to remove minions so it wins the matchup at all. Like Hunter can run away with it, Shaman again, notoriously low on card draw, and you can get those whiff turns, right? And there is enough of a high impact damage from Hunter that can just catch up and keep pushing the damage. Canal Slugger, bit of a problem. It's going to be for Hunter. If it can get even just a value trade, it'd be very, very strong indeed. And generally, yes, the Hunter does struggle, but this is less of an unwinnable matchup than the one we just witnessed. So at least NoHandsGamer knows he feels a little bit better about this one than Monsanto felt about the previous game.
Yeah, we saw Kelly's Luna. I think it was Kelly. We saw somebody. I have actually lost track right now. Earlier, win it with the true aim, because all the Shaman minions are 2/3s and 3/4s. So true aim Rhino. The Rhino can attack twice very easily and do quite a lot of damage. And he had both Rhinos, so it was like 2 turns in a row just hitting it 4 minions. That just adds up so fast. So you can get it done, but Monsanto does have that nice start where you get to play the Feral Spirits early. Overload is only 1 these days if you've been living under a rock for a few months. And I haven't been living under a rock for a few months, so I still think it's 2. And he should be able to get set up a defense, at least for the start of the game.
Yeah, No Hands doesn't have a mind-blowing opening, but it's definitely not bad getting the Walpertingers out nice and early. A Demon Companion, always more powerful when there's already minions on the board, and even that Adorable Infestation to just buff up and, go wide and buff up some minions and make Monsanto have to think about how to remove some of this, because although he has the Feral, this general opening itself is not one of the faster ones, right?
Not really, no. It's not terrible, though, because he's got the lifesteal coming back. The hard part, or the fun part, or the difficult part, I don't know really what to call it, is working out how you want to untap the most mana crystals you can, and that's going to be by playing Feral Spirit next turn, and then Lightning Bloom into the Slogger the turn after, and untap or remove all those locked mana crystals, giving you a chance to play your Cage Sorceress the turn after.
Yeah, and already, though, this is kind of what you don't want as the Shaman. There's just the fact that No Hands has been able to get on board so wide and pretty aggressively. And the worry is, okay, fine, Monsanto has the Feral Spirit this turn if he wants it, but what if Aim Shot's just there, right? So it's Aim Shot, 2 trades, you're still 2 minions ahead as the Hunter, and your Hero Power's about to hit like a ton of bricks as well.
Yeah. Take both. Have a look what they are. Take both. Yep.
Not bad.
That's the way to play it. He knows. He knows the rules.
And this is one of the matchups where I mentioned earlier in Europe that like this deck for Shaman really does feel like Perpetual Flame the deck at this point. And this is one of those moments you can see why if Monsanto had Perpetual Flame in his opening hand, No Hands would be very much on the back foot, because this whole opening would just disappear. Monsanto would have, can activate his quest, unlock, and carry on with the game plan, and No Hands would have to scramble a little bit. But you see even the nod from No Hands is like, okay, there's Feral, there's the unlock, fine, I'm still ahead on board, regardless of what's drawn.
Yeah, and the great thing for No Hands now is Perpetual Flame gets...
If he coins Wrangler into Walpertingers, this is a great play.
You see it so rarely.
Of course, the big bonus here is this is wherever they are, and they are on board right now, and this is going to make even nicer trades come out here for No Hands.
Yeah, especially as he knows to a huge amount of certainty that there was no Perpetual Flame last turn. Yeah, the point I was going to make is that after you get past about turn 5 as the Hunter, your minions stop being scrubby 1/1s and things anyway, and the Perpetual Flame loses a lot of value because you start playing the Rhinos and the Coda Blade and so on. So you really want to flame early. People flame me all the time early, so that's pretty good. If you're going to get this done as the Shaman. Still plenty going on for Monsanto. He's got more taunts, he's got health gain, he's got the charged call, which at some point will just end the game. He's still okay, but this is how it starts to go wrong.
Yeah, it's when you can't actually get on board versus Hunter is the problem, because even now, even a Perpetual Flame now, without additional removal, the Wrangler lives. and then you pass the turn, and then something else will be on the board as well as the Wrangler. And just a note on Perpetual as well, that's why you could think, oh, well, why didn't you retain the 4-3 and push the 2-2 and 1-1 in? And the reason is Perpetual Flame kills the 4-3 just as much as it kills a 1-1. So No Hands just doing the value trade there looked pretty good. And now okay, he went overdraft. There's like the tiniest reason to consider Tidal there, but it's a little bit late in the game for that 8 mana, of course.
He has been trying to hold on to this Zapper in case he picked up the flame, but now he's had to actually try challenging the board the best he can. He's right up against it now, and No Hands will know this. So one more good turn from him, and it could end because he's got Barak in hand, so he can afford to waste cards here.
I think here, Marcel Cub, Walpertingers, trade the 2-2 and... wait, where am I here? What was it? I had my plan laid out and it's all gone now. Oh yeah, and quick shot. So we can quick shot the 3-4, put the 1-1 in, put the 2-2 into the 3-2, and retain the 4 health, importantly, on that Wrangler. So although it looks like No Hands just kind of throws away some minions, if he goes for that play, he does stick a 3-4 on board. He's going to go fishing first instead.
There's some fish. No longer waste the 2 that you don't take, of course, with tracking, is it's Discover, so that's fine. Just got to take the best card for the situation.
Yeah, going for the Rhino, because like you said, it's a much more difficult minion to deal with for the Shaman side.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, normally you think of a Hunter is the Rhino just tramples through and does extra damage, but it might stick for a turn and then it's game over.
Oh, interesting. So No Hands taking the value trade, misses 1 damage to face in doing so, but obviously retains an additional 2-2. I guess he's just saying, okay, well, you just don't have Perpetual, and I'm going to presume you'll never draw it.
And also, if you do have Perpetual, I've got a Rhino now, and you're not playing a turn next turn if you Perpetual me, worst case scenario.
It's true.
I wonder.
It's funny because it feels like No Hands has done everything like amazingly in this game. Monsanto's on 22 against Hunter still.
Yeah.
And he's going to get a 3-3 soon. I've lost track of the quest, I'm afraid. But it will be soon that he gets the 3-3 from the quest.
Yeah, I think it's important to just look at board state in this matchup, less so than health, because Shaman does go pretty wide early on, right? Or it has the ability to. So I think No Hands has done, a really good job here, and he's got great follow-up as well. But this will this generate 3-3? Oh no, sorry, he's 1 off, apologies.
Yeah, he was trying to plan when he wants to charge call. He'll have a number in mind. I've become like addicted to 7 drops today. Everything's a 7-drop.
Is that whether you wanted to or not?
It started that way, and I started actually consciously going for 7 drops because they just seem like a really interesting pool. But that's largely against control because you get like Keymaster and stuff like that. Against aggro, I'm not so sure because I beat them anyway because I'm so good. Something like that.
And this is super interesting. We might see a really weird Slogger trade Perpetual Flame this turn.
Yep.
Because we're getting to that point in a Hunter matchup where I like to call it the point of no return, where the Hunter has done too much damage to you and you've not done enough damage to the Hunter, where they can close to just press hero power to win the game. So I don't think Monsanto can afford to not play this Canal Slugger and trade it into something this turn.
Yeah, nicely worded, I think, and I agree. Scary, actually, for No Hands, because he can't kill this Slugger. Obviously, Monsanto doesn't know that. But with a hand that No Hands currently has, this thing might gain 12 health, not 6, and then that is game over at that point. Oh, he's going to try and greed it? No, surely not.
Yeah, I would be amazed. Yeah, he's going to go for it, and you see the pain there, and like I said, Perpetual Flame the deck.
I mean, it really is pretty close, that I've got to admit, although it does a good job of finding it by surviving so long. I mean, he's drawn 10 cards, he's allowed to find one, obviously. No Hands knows how bad this is.
Not terrible though, because bear in mind, look how wide or how big I guess No Hands' hand is. With the help of Barak, of course, and Monsanto, we can see that double charge call now is a pretty big deal. But obviously, from No Hands' side, yes, he's going to heal a lot, but if he just draws dry a little bit, then look at all this damage still to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, drawing dry is possible with this deck. I think it's overstated slightly, if I'm honest, having played it quite a bit. I feel like it doesn't draw dry as often as people think. I think Fireheart does things worse than people think, but in general, I think the deck's okay. But that's the hope, for sure.
I actually really like to see the allocate once into Barak, the 2/2 into Barak, and then the value trade, or just the face trade with the Slugger. Don't let it die to Wound Prey, I think is the important part here.
Got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Could trade the 3/3 in, yeah, whatever. Whichever way he goes now is fine, but as long as...
a face trade?
No, I said he could trade the 3/3 in.
Yeah, no, everything made sense, but you said you would like to see the face trade with the Slugger.
Oh, did I?
6-1. Yeah.
It's just how my brain works.
I mean, it all made sense. It dawned on me a few seconds later that we are now saying trade in all the minions and the other one's doing a face trade.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's how to
trade the minion into the face. It's a good trade because you keep the minion.
It's a really good trade. And you gain 6 health.
But you can see here, like, my point overall, that yes, there was a charge call. It wasn't one of the backbreaking ones. I think the new demon is, the 8/8 armor, is a big problem. But look, because of the Barak, like, look what No Hands can do this turn. It's not that bad. There is the Alakir going to live, and he still has backup double Felmore quick shot. And my overall point is he could play into the late game. The only problem is, of course, we can see charge call number 2 in the hand. Now there's Perpetual Flame again, but also just that Entrap Sorceress. So we can see that the game is just slipping away here from No Hands, but Hunter isn't all just, well, if I don't kill you on turn 5, the game ends, right? It can go pretty late.
Yeah, it is surprising me. We're on 7, and yeah, the attacks have been repelled, and the Hunter has the most cards. Admittedly, they're not doing anything for a turn or 2, but the Felmors might actually still have a part to play before all is done.
It's like a 4-mana Pyroblast, right?
Yeah? Yeah, 4-mana Pyroblast, you're 2/3.
Perfect.
I get the point, yeah. So they might have a part to play before all is done. A few more cards to come. The quick shot will draw a card. Yeah, there's a chance. I'm surprised how it's hanging in different worlds where maybe Monsanto was only got 1 attack instead of 3 with a Slugger, for instance. Maybe he's on 18 or something. It's surprising how the Hunter's hung in. Got to admit.
I like this as well. Go for Bukan, go for the greed on the charge call. He is not going to be dead on 24 this turn. So get the Bukan down, then there's double charge call next turn, and that will, even if it doesn't do it now, will almost certainly end the game next turn regardless.
Yeah, it does also, as it happens, and I'm sure he knew this, set up exact lethal.
Yeah, very nice play there from Monsanto. No Hands almost got there, but to no one's surprise, Perpetual Flame saved the day there for Monsanto. And a really strong play overall, though. I did like the way everything was approached there, but you can see the pressure that Hunter puts on in what is generally deemed a bad matchup.
We're going to see a new class now. Darek had never seen this class before, and I'm not sure if Europeans have seen it either. We call it Warlock.
Oh no, we've seen a bit of Warlock. We've got Gabby and Bly's on the no Warlock ban because they're bringing Celestial Druids. So yeah, we see.
Oh, they're banning Hunter.
Yeah, we see a splash of Warlock knocking about.
You're going to be all right then. You can solo cast this Warlock, but no.
It's fine.
Joking aside,
I played a lot of Warlock.
it's the hand lock version of Warlock, which you were clanging on about this after like 3 days of how amazing this deck was, right? And you have the floor, Raven. You can tell us how great this is and why D6 is bad, as much as you like now, because there's no one here to change your mind.
Oh, he'll find me. Don't worry. He'll find me.
Good.
No,
You'll never know. I won't tell him.
I am a fan of Handlock, of course. As you did just kind of attest to, I was liking this version even when D6 was really popping off. And I just think it's flexible, right? And it feels less all-in, even though obviously D6 is not all-in. And quite honestly, it's just easier to jam a load of ladder games with because I'm not as good on D6 Warlock, and that's just the truth. If I was Gabby, then sure, I'd play D6 all day and win. Unfortunately, though, I am not. But yeah, it's a good matchup again, I think, for the Warlock. It is very much the back and forth of last hero standing is the way we're seeing this series play out. Just the fact that the minions are generally too big for the Shaman to deal with. Perpetual Flame Giants, why don't you? Oh wait, it doesn't really work. So yeah, the big deal here is the Giants are huge. And also as well, the big thing for me is the Soul Rends, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards because I've played a lot of Warlock. Because if the Shaman goes for the pressure early, which it can do, right? Feral Spirits, it can generate the 3/3 Elemental, the other minions around that turn 3/4. It looks pretty dangerous, but then you just Soul Rend them, and they're gone. And there's not really a great follow-up often after that, right? Especially when if the Shaman's not playing the Earth Elemental style. So there's not really a big follow-up, and if there's no follow-up, you're pretty much free to do what you want as the Warlock, and that often leads to the wins.
And that's something I've always enjoyed about Last Hero Standing, played by the very best players. Will we see some weird strategy from Monsanto to play around that, or will he have to play into it? Is there some weirdness he can do where he just plays 2 charged calls in a whole game? That's obviously ridiculous, but over time we have seen players who are forced to play a lot of one-sided matchups find weird ways to make them much less one-sided. Well, so I am interested to see how he approaches this.
There's generally 2 schools of thought when it comes to awkward matchups, right? You either get extremely creative and either find things we didn't think possible or lose because of it, or you just take the approach of, I'm going to pretend that No Hands has 2 Flesh Giants and then Therion bottom 3 cards of his deck.
Right.
And just go all in, not all in, but just play and pretend that Soul Rend doesn't exist, pretend you're not going to get Giant Wind Furied, and just play the game and just hope it's one of those good times where your opponent's not really getting hold of the draws.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when you're playing the Shadow Priest against this Shaman deck, you just play. And you say, you know...
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, you play Shadow Priest against the Shaman. You just play and you say, if they have Perpetual Flame, I lose this game of Hearthstone.
Well,
and then you just take your chance.
Yeah. I will say, if anyone wants a bit of a masterclass on some Shadow Priest, Gabby played exceptionally well today. He 3-0'd with it, and throughout the games, he was doing perfect things with giving certain stuff Divine Shield, putting health totals of his board at weird numbers, so there was never really good clears, and it paid off a lot. So if you want some Shadow Priest tips from Grandmasters, go and check out earlier on Gabby's game versus Iala today.
Never heard of him. Who?
Still would have won it though.
What? Don't know who you mean. Anyway, Monsanto is going to go for the tempo chance of winning this by the look of it. And as we can see, there is no Soul Rend in hand, so at least he'll have some chance of survival.
Yeah, there is a 1-mana Anetheron and a 2-mana Goldshire Null next turn though, which is a pretty sizable board to deal with from Monsanto's side.
One thing I do like about this deck, I was quite scornful of this handlock deck in the early days because it felt like it was pulling in sort of 7 different directions. It didn't know if it wanted to complete the quest. It didn't know if it wanted to make a big minion. It didn't really know what it was doing. But now it knows full on what it's doing. It's going to hit you really hard with some big stuff, and then it's going to do it twice. And then it's got a quest as a bit of a backup plan. I think it's improved so much now. It seems a much more focused deck. And there's only like a 4 or 5 card difference from the version I didn't like.
Yeah, I think it's a mentality difference as well, because you quickly learn the more games you put in that the point of the deck is drop big minions for very cheap mana and keep doing it with Raised Dead. And also have the flexibility of removing the minions your opponent puts in the way. The Tamsin Total End Quest reward is a secondary win condition in certain matchups or certain situations where both you and your opponent have become very even, then you have that backup plan. But I agree, the real power of this deck is the big minions, which is helped along by the tier 1 and tier 2 procs of the quest. Just dealing some damage, healing some health, keeping you topped up. Yeah, this is just a good turn, right? Because instantly now, Monsanto needs to answer this board. He can kill the null, no problem. He could trade the 3/4 into an Etheron and then go Perpetual Flame. But I think what is important here is he has to kill the Tour Guide this turn, no matter what.
It's just so funny.
Serious. That's not
I know you are. It's absolutely hilarious. He's got an 8/6 and a 5/1, but he must kill the little one. That's because of those raised deads. You've got to have that out there. Yeah, it's just so funny though. It's great.
And he's going to be able to clear this all up. And now NoHands, has the potential drawback, right, of raised dead. He will get a null or an Etheron, but he could get a Tour Guide to pair with those, which is obviously a negative outcome for what he would want.
Overdraft is interesting here for me.
Yeah, he's 4 locked, right?
Yeah. I mean, Bloom is the better card, and he's got the charged call, so that was the default. But the reason the overdraft was interesting to me is he doesn't run it naturally in his deck, so it's a bit of super surprise, possibly 8 or 9 burst.
Right. Imagine now this is going to be raised dead, goes for the 1 mana Anetheron into 2 mana null. Is the outcome he will be chasing right now? Easy. What a god.
See? That's why he's a future world champion and we're here.
Yeah. That's what you got to do, and it's good control, right? Like organizing and in setting up these raised deads. I think NoHands thought there was a likely chance that the majority of his board gets cleared up, especially with how many cards Monsanto has in his hand at this point. But just to know, okay, he spends cards clearing the board, almost certainly overloads in that scenario. So then I just do it again. Oh, he went for it.
Oh my. I've seen this board before somewhere. It's the exact board.
It looks similar, doesn't it?
Very familiar to me. That 2 turns ago.
I just had this is no offense, Lorinda, but I just had a weird thought of, because we've seen the board, like, is this a Groundhog's Day moment and this is how it starts? Like, I jump in to cover a match on Americas and it just never ends. I'm just casting this one match for Americas forever.
Like, you've just got to find a way to escape by making me say the right password or something. I'm just not doing it, so you have to do it over. Like, maybe you've got to make me cast a game without a mistake or something, and it takes you.
I mean, that would be an eternity, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. What a punishment that would be.
I do like the Devolve pickup now. Monsanto has double Devolving Missiles available. And even if he doesn't do it on this necessary board right now, even just Evolving Giants, even though he's just seen the double raised dead, so I guess it's not a big deal with the Devolving, but being able to control some of the outcomes here and reduce down these boards is a big deal. Especially if he hits the likes of these Scavengers maybe later on.
I got the best deals anywhere.
I wanted to see a 7 here. But he's got Auctioneer, so I'm wrong and he's right. Look at this go.
This is what Quest Shaman was missing all along.
Quest Shaman with Auctioneer?
Yeah, why not?
What I want to do is see somebody play Diligent Note Taker with a quest like Rogue Quest and play the quest twice over the game and get like 2 lots of scabs. There'll be a quest where that's absolutely nutty if you can make it work.
Here, though, NoHands has the Anetheron and then a plethora of removal he can use to clean up this board. All the while, though, this might look like Monsanto's been doing a great job, and he has, of keeping this board sort of down, generating tons of cards. All looks great, but what he doesn't have at the moment is heal, so he cannot leave minions up, like, again, really, at this point, because... If any of these stick, you can see the Battlemaster in NoHands' hand, and then there's Cult Neophyte to help him out cover the turn if he wants to, and I think I'd like to see that. Just to defend this Anetheron a little bit, because 21, the Battlemaster, that's not too far away from lethal.
Yeah, he absolutely obviously has to deal with the Auctioneer, and I don't care. Obviously I care. I'm sitting here watching top quality Hearthstone, but the rest he can do what he likes, and I'll be fine with it, put it that way. But yeah, 21 suddenly becomes 16. He's behind, 16 to 17.
It's just a lethal setup if just an Etheron lives.
Yeah. Monsanto has 3 mana to do something about it.
Oh, it's not great, is it?
It's really not, because if he plays the Feral, the 5-1 trades into 1, the Drain Soul kills the other. It doesn't, because the Battlemaster doesn't cost 5 anymore. Reverse. It doesn't matter, he just plays the Battlemaster and gets through them, right?
Yeah, you can just do the thing he trades, right? Yeah. Yeah, and Etheron's really sick as well, because it's the most like devolve-proof minion in the world, isn't it? Like you devolve it and it might just gain stats at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like it has a live effect either, so it's not as if, okay, well it might have more stats, but it now doesn't have this cool effect it has, which is the real problem. It's like, nope, just an 8-6.
It's GG.
And that's just going to be game. No Hands takes it and evens up the series. Battleground Battlemaster takes another victim here, and you can see it was just really well handled from No Hands. I think the only question was whether the tour guide needed to have been played, but in No Hands' defense, he played the tour guide and tapped before he even drew an Etheron, so he didn't know he had the hand, whereas if he had an Etheron with the null in his opening hand, he would have probably avoided the tour guide and guaranteed the raised deads. But regardless, he did get the raised deads off that were good enough. He landed like the duplicate raised dead anyway and put enough pressure on, and even with the card draw, even with those effects, the overload was what really pushed Monsanto over the edge there. As you mentioned, 3 mana left to deal with that final board, just wasn't enough.
So we're going to go into a game number 5. It's going to be Monsanto's Priest. I'm going to triple check it is a Shadow Priest. It's been a long day. It is indeed a Shadow
It is, yes.
Against No Hands Warlock. And I'm a fair man, Raven. I'm a very fair man. So I'm 1-0 up on predictions so far, because I predicted that Rogue was going to win. You can now get a chance to go level. And there's going to be no sort of last score or wins or any of that rubbish. You've just got a chance to tie here. Who's going to win this last game?
No Hands Warlock, easy.
Okay.
I will say, I practiced against TJ, because TJ was playing this priest list with the Ganling and the 0 drops and stuff, and I felt confident because I wasn't convinced with it against his deck list, and then he continued to have Ganling and like double raised dead and the minions to play with Ganling like pretty much every game against me, which felt bad. I wasn't playing Handlock against him. I can't remember what I was playing actually. I think it might have been Shaman, but it was just the endless army of 4/4s absolutely ruined me like game after game. And when I thought I'd cleared the board, he would just raise dead every single time. So there is a small fear factor to this deck, and I know Monsanto and Language Hacker have been playing this Desk Imp Murloc deck, and I just can't wrap my head around keeping 2 0-mana 1/1s. But I will say, the only time you could sell that to me is with a Voracious Reader in hand on Priest.
And a Wriggling Horror, right? It was like the perfect... I'm in the same camp as you. I don't like these 0-mana 1/1s. I think it's a little bit too tricksy overall as a plan, even though I understand the plan. But sure, if you're going to keep them with Wriggling Horror and a Voracious Reader, so you get to play whatever you draw next on turn 2, and then you just plop out a Reader and draw your cards back, sure, I'll let you do that. And Monsanto, I've allowed you to make this play, and it seems like a good one.
And to be fair, Monsanto probably just doing a great job, bit of charity work there, just upping the potential mulligan win rate of the Imp to catch up on his Murloc friends. So, you know, he's read the stats. Second Wriggling Horror, though. There it is, though. I was just about to say, No Hands is only a soul rend away from a good time right now.
Yeah. But he's got to wait one more turn where he's going to eat 11.
I think he can.
Yes.
I think he can just play the Bristleback, right?
Yeah, I think he can.
It effectively, if it's traded into, heals for 6, right?
Yep.
Oh, No Hands. A little bit risky. This does proc the quest, so although the damage he takes here will effectively negate itself, because the quest will deal 3, heal 3. So there is that. I did just wonder whether Bristleback was just fine at that point, because I don't think there's anything in Monsanto's list that could kill it, right? So it would either be traded into, or it would be ignored, in which it would attack and heal anyway.
Yeah, they've sacrificed all of the direct damage to be able to do this. That's an attendant, Raven.
Yeah, so what's that? 4, 5, 7, 10, 13?
The trouble is, if you do it, you no longer get to play your homunculus, because if you do it, you've got to hero power as well, surely, right? And yes, you're right, it's 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, yeah.
What if it's just Voracious Reader? There's only draw 1, but that's still not bad. Like, if you're under the assumption that you're just hoping they don't have Soul Rend, I guess this is the plan that kind of gets around them having Soul Rend, right? If No Hands plays Soul Rend, that's the whole turn, and then Voracious Reader Homunculus X next turn.
Yeah, just Soul Rend me, go for it.
Yeah.
I'll shoot you for 2 more damage. I'll play... Yeah.
But this is one of the reasons why I think I liked the Bristleback from No Hands the previous turn.
Yeah.
I didn't really see the downside.
That's the second time on this broadcast I've not understood why someone's played a Bristleback. When things go wrong once, it's usually the player's mistake. When they go wrong twice, it's usually me that doesn't understand.
Well, all the pressure in the world. That is not a healing spell. So what does No Hands have to do here? If he taps into Drain Soul, he goes up to 4. That's not Drain Soul. He could still get it. That's not it. That's just going to be game. Just like that. I was wrong, Lorinda.
Wow.
Yeah, it just was not enough. Monsanto came out of nowhere. And I will say, I did not really expect the double Death Imp into the same turn 1 coin Wriggling Horror into Wriggling Horror opening. That's not something I've seen too often. Even when I was playing with TJ, I had a bit more of a chance in there. But again, I do... I'm not saying this is wrong or right, but it's one of those moments that I just wish I could turn back time and just play out the same game, but if the Bristleback was played, just to see what would happen. No Hands might have just completely lost in the same fashion, like 100%, but I just would have been interested to see there, because what he ended up doing was he still healed 3, dealt 3, but he was still ended up, I think, lower health in total with that play, but it had a bit more of a payoff to it if he could accelerate the plan going forward with the additional live tap. So really interesting, but rapid fire last game there, Lorinda.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, Raven, if you had turned back time, you would have found a way. I'm not going to let that one go. Sottle would never forgive me. Let's have a look at tomorrow's top 8 for the Americas region, though. Fled, and with a very good performance this week. Now, Gaiden just adding to his points tally that he started with 5 more than everybody else. He's just clearing away. Kayla's Luna, no Muzzy to stop him this time. And he has got to his 2nd semi-finals in a row. He's only been here for 1 season. It's like our version of Gabby. And then there's Monsanto. Mr. didn't play on Friday this week. Look at me. He is also in that semi-final bracket. It's going to be exciting to see who takes that one down. Nice mix of players there as well, right from the very new to the absolute older.
Yeah, and already if you just look at how this has panned out, it's a bit of a fear for a lot of the other players. Monsanto and Kayla's Luna, both back-to-back top 4s now.